Today we have Amanda McKoy Flanagan, who is a grief and recovery coach, among other things. And oh, there she is. Let me get you on, Amanda. How to deal with grief, loss, and recovery. A lot of times people in, hi, Amanda. People in these situations, because our audience, as you know, tends to be people who are getting out of difficult relationships, dealing with high conflict divorce, custody battles, and awful co-parenting situations. They feel guilty because sometimes they still miss their ex, even in a toxic relationship. And so I thought this would be a really interesting interview to talk about grief when it comes to grieving a difficult relationship or an unhealthy relationship and all the guilt that comes with it. So before you introduce yourself formally, Amanda, can we talk about how can we even start to normalize grief?
Sure. So grief, or the feeling that comes with grief, the emotion of loss, feeling loss, is completely normal and natural. It is just as much a part of the human experience as love or pain or joy or all of it. We're on a spectrum of emotion, and grief and loss is just a part of that. We don't like it. It doesn't feel good, so we don't like to just kind of embrace it, but it's just a part of the natural experience. Loss is probably one of the only things that I think every single human being feels at some point. And I say that more than over love, because some people never know how to truly love. But everybody is going to feel loss at some point, whether it comes up to the surface, whether they, it doesn't matter if they're pushing it down or not. It's still there. It's still inside somewhere. So it's completely natural and normal and healthy to feel.
So interesting, because it sounds like loss is really the issue and grief is just a little offshoot of it. So before we even go on, Amanda, can you officially introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about
Thank
what
you.
do.
Thank you for having me. So I'm Amanda McKoy Flanagan. I'm a licensed master social work. I'm a loss and empowerment coach. I used to call myself a grief coach, but I recently changed that to loss and empowerment because, like we're talking about, loss encompasses so much more. When people hear grief, they think death, but just
Yes, that's what I
divorce.
was thinking.
Yeah, divorce is loss. So I've kind of broadened it, and empowerment, the empowerment piece, that's what I do. So I just changed it to loss and empowerment just so that people can understand what happens when you work with me. I'm also an award-winning author. I'm a writing coach. I am an energy healer. I'm certified in Reiki, EFT tapping, chakra balancing. And it might seem like a lot of different things, but really it all has to do with loss. It all comes back to loss, especially even the writing part. I help usually women, but men too, write memoirs. And typically a memoir kind of comes up, or somebody feels compelled to write one after some kind of significant loss, which typically leads to a spiritual awakening. Whether they look at it like that or not, doesn't matter. They have some kind of story. They've had some kind of lesson or some kind of learning that they feel compelled to share. So all that I do, everything that I do falls under the umbrella of helping people really transform through healing their loss in some way. And healing is an interesting word when we talk about all this stuff, because it's not like you have a scrape and then you put some bacitracin on it and a Band-Aid and it's all healed and you can't tell that it was never there. It's really become just a part of you. So the healing is just the ability to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because a lot of times people think healing is some end finish line.
Exactly.
And they think I'm going to get there, but they don't recognize the progress that happens along the way.
Yeah. Exactly. So the healing is all about your maybe new perception, or who you have now become, or how you've turned your pain into power or purpose. So there's no end. There's never an end to this. It just changes over time.
Yeah. When you talked about helping people write memoirs, I'm thinking that one of the most common things we hear from our community and amongst our clients is, I'm going to write a book someday about this. And being a writer myself, I mean, I've journaled since I was 12 years old. I feel like writing really got me through so many things. And it was a way to not realize at the time, but to reflect on later what exactly I was feeling, because a lot of times I didn't know what I was feeling. I didn't think about it. But when you write late at night or when you're half awake, it's like we talk about it, especially because I used to be an English teacher, like free writing, just stream of consciousness. And then the things that you discover later that you knew the whole time, it's just amazing.
I like that you said that you knew the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
It's always in us. All of it is already there, or else it wouldn't come up. It's not like some, oh, poof, like pulling this down and pulling this down. It's really pulling it up and out. That's what that's what we're doing. And the writing is so cathartic. It is so healing. And very often we feel like we have some kind of story or lesson to teach or whatever, and through the writing more healing happens for you. It's a very cathartic experience writing a memoir, and really at the end of it, when after a second, third, fourth draft, however many drafts you need to write to get to the heart of it, that's what you do. You get to the heart of it. It kind of strips you and you get extremely vulnerable, and you get to the real message of what you're trying to say. So on the outset it seems like, oh, I'm telling this story. But very interestingly, when you're at the end of it, you're really telling a whole different story, which is much more deep and meaningful.
Yeah, and I also think about how people in these situations have had their voice silenced or taken away for so long, and how writing a memoir, writing in general, gives you your voice back.
Totally. Great point. Yes, 100%. I love that.
Yeah. So what about the shame? There's all kinds of shame associated with divorce and having to co-parent with a very difficult ex, which doesn't fall in the realm of normal for most people. Ours is, of course, the extreme community,
Mhm.
and there's all this shame, like I shouldn't be so angry, or I shouldn't still feel hurt about this loss. One of our people just a few days ago said that she found out that her ex and their new partner are having a baby, and it seemed like she was awash all over again, even though they separated years ago.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so I first want to point out that the word should be removed from all of your vocabularies. There is no should. You just feel what you feel, and that's
Hmm.
okay. It's all good. There is really no bad emotion or bad part of you. It's how you use it.
Hmm.
I even think shame can be used for good. I mean, I wouldn't suggest living in it, but see it, embrace it, acknowledge it, pay some attention, and say, okay, how can I transform this or integrate this into my being in a way that's going to serve me and serve others, right? Maybe it's just seeking healing. Like you wouldn't seek the healing if you didn't feel the shame. So it
Hmm.
serves a purpose. So instead of feeling shame about feeling shame or whatever, right? Like everything comes up for a reason, and you just have to pay attention to it. And I meditate a lot. That's what I do, and I write. I kind of do that as part of my meditation practice to just get to the what's underneath that. And typically it's a fear. Typically
Mm.
anything that's bothering us or any of these negative emotions that we don't like, there's some kind of fear under there. Like I'm not, I don't love my kids enough if I don't want them with their dad or mom, whatever it is, like there's always going to be something underneath that. And then to get really honest with yourself and say, but is that true? Is the story I'm telling myself true? And
That's
usually
a great question.
it's some kind of conditioning. I learned it from my therapist. Nothing I say is really original. Just passing on information, right?
It's
Um,
helpful. Thank
and
you. We'll take it.
that's what we do. It's very hard to find an original thought these days, but so you got to just get to the bottom of it, figure out how can I use this instead of beating myself up for very natural feelings, right? Maybe it's an invitation to love yourself a little bit more. Maybe it's an invitation to find your authenticity or find your power and say, I don't like this and I'm going to change it. I'm going to take action. These negative feelings, emotions prompt us to take action because they're uncomfortable. They're supposed to be there. They're just part of the journey.
Yeah.
I personally cannot get, to point, B if I don't look at A and say, there's a reason why I'm feeling this. Every emotion we have is human, and there is no bad part of you. So to remember that, and that these are just very natural feelings and emotions that are going to come up.
Yeah. I mean, it's so hard for people to realize that it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I like how you said that these uncomfortable emotions, it's really your something in you saying, I'm ready to make a change. And sometimes we meet with people and they say, I can't do this anymore, I give up. And I said, that can't be true, or you wouldn't have gotten in touch. Something
Mm-hmm.
in you made you get in touch. If you were ready to give up, you wouldn't have You wouldn't have made this appointment.
Exactly. Exactly. Everything comes up for a reason. It's just a matter of deciphering what am I supposed to do with this?
Great word, deciphering.
It's almost like a touch point, or I'm trying to think of the right word. I can't think of the right word for it right now, but it's just like this little like knock, like a trying to get your awareness, really.
Yeah.
Because that's what our
We
feelings and emotions are doing.
we sometimes think about certain things as inflection points. So
Okay.
maybe that's, I don't know if that fits.
Inflection.
Yeah,
That
like
might make sense.
something
Yeah, I've
is,
never thought of that word. Yeah, that's a good one.
I know. Well, look at us with some good words.
Inflection.
That's what happens
Look
with
at
Ray.
that. Yeah, we
All
must be
right. So,
writers.
one of the things that you and I are aligned on is with helping people move forward. I think writing can be really helpful with making sense of things, but at some point, um, you have to decide whether you're going to just stay in this trauma loop or move forward. So, talk about why moving forward is so important, or at least at some point.
Yeah, I mean, we all move forward at the pace that we're comfortable with, or really when the pain gets great enough,
Hmm.
that's when we choose to make a change. So you might think your pain is overwhelming and it's so bad, but you either have a very high threshold for pain, or you really haven't hit a bottom yet with it enough to step into the unknown. I
Hmm.
think that's what keeps us from moving forward is this fear of uncertainty. Like at least I know how I'm going to feel. This
Hmm.
feeling is familiar, and that humans just want predictability and
Right.
certainty more than anything. We have anxiety. A lot of us have anxiety, the traumas we've been through. We just want control. We want things just neatly packaged in little boxes. And the truth is, that's just not how life is. So when there's a phrase by a nice Nin, and it's something I'm going to paraphrase here. It's something like when the pain of staying tightly in the bud was more than the pain it took to blossom. Like that's when we take the step forward. Feeling the fear, right? Courage, feeling the fear, doing it anyway, is the way that we can move forward, knowing that whatever's going to happen, I'm going to be able to
Mhm.
handle. It's not going to be easy. I'm not saying we're going to be, skipping through the meadow, everything's going to be great. It's going to suck.
Right.
Frankly, it's going to suck. But what's the alternative? You either stay in the pain and you're just in that trauma loop, like you said, or you go through the pain and you get to the other side. And
Hmm.
there's that light at the end of the tunnel where there's some kind of emotional freedom rather than keeping yourself stuck. So it's really, to me, it feels like making a decision
Hmm.
when that pain is so great and say, what am I willing to do? So I'm also sober, I'm in
Yeah, I
recovery. And we
was
use,
just about to ask you about that.
yes, and we say, we have a phrase, what lengths are you willing to go for your
Mhm.
sobriety? What lengths
Mhm.
are you willing to go to for your sobriety? We usually ask that to sponsees and stuff before we start working with them. And it's the same thing with this. How much pain are you willing to have to endure to eventually get to the other side?
Mhm.
Because nothing, no pain, no gain, right? Nothing in life that is worthwhile is easy. It's just not. It's scary, and that's okay. You're going to make it through. You may have some days where you can't get out of bed. You may have some days where you're on the floor, shuddering in fear, whatever it is, but you're going to find that resilience. Resilience is a part of every human spirit. It is in you. There's no way it's not. Some of us may be just more adept at uh, reaching for it, getting it, and bringing it up and out, but it's there and it's going to show up. I'm spiritual. I pray. I'm not religious, really. I go to an Episcopal church, but I'm not really religious. Um, but I pray. I ask something greater than me, whatever that thing is, whatever you believe in, and it doesn't have to be what anybody else believes in. I call it spirit of the universe, God, source, whatever that your higher self, whatever. I mean, there's got to be something else going on. I don't make flowers grow out of the ground, right? So there's got to be something going on, Mother Nature, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
Call upon that thing to pull up the resilience up and out of you, not even to give it to you, to bring it to what's already in you to the surface, because that's how you will feel empowered, is knowing that it's inside of you, just waiting to come out. And these really painful experiences, again, are invitations to heal these other deeper wounds that really are not just about your divorce or your pain around this. There's other stuff, childhood stuff, this stuff, these major pains, deaths, griefs, all different types of losses kick up other stuff. So pay attention to that.
Yeah, I'm always thinking about how growth usually comes from pain, some kind of pain.
Totally.
Because
Yeah.
if you didn't have this pain, you would stay the way you are. Like you said, it's familiar.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
think just recognizing that growth requires pain a lot of times, and
Yes.
this is a normal part of getting to something better.
Definitely. It's a stepping stone, a very rough, sharp stepping stone to a better version of you that's always been trying to come forth.
Hmm.
But for some reason was stifled in the choices that you were making and all of that. And now it's time to just see it clearly, take responsibility
Hmm.
for your part in why was I attracted to this person. My husband and I almost got divorced 7 years ago, and it was after my brother died. I'm also convinced that we go through these major relationship upheavals shortly after we have big traumatic losses in our life. And I was pushing him away for fear that he was next to die is really what was going on. And we did all of this work together on our marriage. And I'm not saying that I'm not a marriage counselor, and I am not for people staying together necessarily. What I am for is doing the work on yourself so that you don't bring whatever contributed to the pain in that relationship into the next one. That's what I'm
Hmm.
all about. Stay or go, I don't really care. It's about the healing going on within you. And what we found was we were attracted to each other for really seeking out unconsciously parts of our caretakers that were never really able to serve us,
Hmm.
that could not fill our needs. And we didn't realize we were doing this. And why we're drawn into partnership with people where it seems painful is because, again, it's a awareness of, okay, I'm not patient with my partner, or my issue was emotional intimacy for a long time. I'm not comfortable there, all that kind of stuff. And then it was like, okay, well, can I heal that part of me to serve the relationship? And then in the process, I'm filling that void. I'm filling that void that I carried. So difficult relationships, I'm not talking about toxic, narcissistic relationships at all, or abusive. Regular run-of-the-mill issues in relationships
Hmm.
are there to point out and show us, again, what needs to be healed inside of us, typically from childhood.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're talking about something that we talked a little bit about when we first met, and that's how emotional maturity
Mm.
sometimes develops as you're in recovery.
Oh, yes, 100%. And in recovery from grief, recovery from, alcohol and drugs, addiction, whatever it is, because we can't afford to stay in like resentment and
Mhm.
fear and anxiety and pain. Like for an alcoholic, it could bring me back to drinking and I could die.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's important for me to get really honest about what's in front of me. Who am I? Really? Who am I? And finding my authenticity, returning back to my true self, peeling the layers of all the conditioning that was put on us by sometimes well-meaning parents, mostly parents that are just incapable.
Mhm.
And times have changed a lot, right? Like there's a lot of generational stuff, but it's very important to get honest with myself and really see this stuff clearly for what it is. And that requires emotional maturity. It does. It just does. So for me, it's life and death. I always say I'm no better than anybody else. I do a lot of this work because my life depends on it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure many people are grateful, and I know somebody already asked about how they can find you, and we'll talk about that at the end. But um, one of the other things that we mentioned before was progress. How do minor decisions that people make, instead of oh, I have to get to this full recovery where I'm going to be blissfully
Mm.
happy, how do minor decisions help us regain our power?
Just baby steps. We make so many decisions throughout our day that we don't even see or notice. Every decision that you make, like me, I could either drink a full caffeinated cup of coffee that's going to give me anxiety and make me crazy, or I could pick a matcha, and keep it clean. And all these little decisions are either moving me forward toward bettering myself or my well-being, or really for me masochistic, they're hurting me in some way. So all of these decisions, and the better decision or the healthier decision, the decision that's going to guide me and lead me toward into a better version of myself, is always going to be filled with that power. It's going to give me power. It's empowering. I feel better about myself. Again, it might feel more comfortable to want to do something, not so much anymore, but I used to have this kind of built-in decision-making technique that kind of would place me in a position to be heard. because I had this limiting belief in my head that I didn't deserve a good life. I didn't deserve to be happy. I didn't deserve joy because my self-worth was so low.
Mm-hmm.
So once I grew that and gained those skills, and again, through action, doing esteemable things, we also say in recovery, you want self-esteem, do esteemable things, like help somebody, be of service. Even when I first got sober, I'd buy myself a little $5 bouquet of flowers and keep it on my table. And I'd walk into my house and it was like, I deserve a $5 bouquet of flowers. Like little minor things like that. Doesn't need to be monumental. We don't need to make monumental decisions to prove something to ourselves, really. Small little baby steps it takes awareness. It really takes awareness to slow down. Really, that's the first step, because we can't make good decisions if we're running and gunning all the time. Slow down, really think about every decision that you make. And then you will learn to trust yourself over time, where you will not have to think so much about those decisions. They will just come naturally because it's who you are. You become it.
Yeah. When you actually took the words out of my mouth, I was going to say all of this makes me think of learning to trust yourself again, especially because pretty much everyone in this community has been betrayed significantly. And so they're really scared about learning to trust another person again. How am I going to be able to tell? But I think what you've touched on is that's secondary. It's more about learning to trust yourself again, and also realizing you don't need to rely on someone else to give you that sense of confidence. Like you getting flowers for yourself when you've made a good decision that makes you feel good. Why should someone else have to do that? You can do it for yourself, and you still get that same joy when you see the flowers sitting there.
Exactly.
Right?
And I actually wrote a book about what you're talking about.
Oh, tell us about it, Amanda.
This is my book, Trust Yourself to Be All In, Save to Love and Let Go. And what it is, the message, you're hitting the nail on the head. The message is about feeling so much self-worth, self-love, unconditional self-worth, self-love, radical authenticity, this just knowing yourself so well, loving yourself to the point where other people compliment you. They do not create your happiness. They do not create your identity. They add to it. So you feel so solid in your sense of self that no matter who stays or who goes, you're going to be upset. Again, it's not, and my husband's 12 years older. He's chronically ill from 9/11. He has respiratory illness. So like the story of pushing him away, was all about fear of loss, of future loss, right? When we go through these major losses, we can tend to pull away to protect ourselves. It's a pretty natural thing. It's emotional protection. But this whole journey that I went on for years before I wrote my book after my brother died really showed me who I am, and I actually like myself. I like myself. And if I'm alone versus lonely, two different things.
Right.
If I'm alone, I'm okay in solitude. Like, I like hanging out with myself. Like, that's okay. And I will survive those losses because I have me. I'm not dependent on anybody else to provide me with a sense of wholeness or contentment. They just add to it.
Yeah. As you're talking, of course, all these things are coming up because I was a solo traveler. I love traveling. I mean, I love traveling with my partner, but I love traveling with myself as well because I don't have to ask anybody
Yeah.
or worry about what anybody else wants. I can do whatever I want,
Exactly.
whenever I want to.
Yes, it's empowering to be on your own. I remember like a friend used to in high school or college, whatever, she would like go to the movies by herself. And I'm like,
Oh yeah, I've done that too.
let
Love
somebody
it.
do that. Like that felt so strange to me. But you
Love it.
have you always have you. And I always have my higher power. I'm never alone. I feel I'm very close to spirit. I feel like I always have some kind of energy around me.
Mm-hmm.
So you really are never truly alone. But when you are by yourself, yeah, it's empowering to not need somebody in that way to fill those needs or that void for you. And I'm not saying, oh, be self-sufficient and I don't need anybody. Like, no, we need each other. We need connection. We need love. We need to feel loved. We need to give love. That only happens in connection with another human. But it's not the end all be all of my content, my happiness, my sense of
Right.
safety and security. That's what it comes down to, a sense of safety and security.
I think also, and when it comes to being able to love someone else, or for someone to love you, is to also know who you are. And I think coming out of these relationships, we've lost our sense of self. And so that's why it is important to do the work and to realize, like, you're a different person now, but you got to get yourself back better.
Yeah,
And
it's
you're never going
exciting.
to go back to being who you were. You're going to be a better version of that, hopefully, if you get the right support, of course.
Exactly. It feels like exciting to me in a
It
way
is.
that
It's
could be a whole,
scary, but it is
yeah.
exciting.
It's all how you look at it, right?
Right.
Like you get to rediscover yourself, maybe your true self for the first time. You get to say, you know what, I actually didn't like folk music or whatever, or I actually
Oh,
didn't like sushi. I just did that
right.
because I wanted them to like me or to think that I was cool or whatever it is, right?
Right. And then you
Like now you
took it
get to
on. You
say,
just took it
yeah,
on thinking that that was you as well.
because you
As you're
wanted
saying this,
that love.
yeah, I'm thinking, and this sounds awful to some people, but my ex loved going to live music. And I realized I don't actually like going to live music. I like visual things. I like stories and plays. And when I'm at a concert, I feel like I need to, like, I'm listening, but I need to do something else. And,
Hmm.
but that's that's how I am. I just prefer other things,
That's who
and
you
that's
are.
okay.
Yeah. So you
Right.
get to figure that out.
Yeah.
You get to just kind of like I was saying, like reinvent, rediscover who you truly are. And that's
Hmm.
that's exciting. And you get to live how you want to live.
Yeah.
And then you get to this place where then you will attract the right person in time
Hmm.
because that's a very attractive quality. Somebody who knows themselves and somebody who is not hustling, right? Brene Brown uses that phrase, hustle for your worthiness.
Hmm.
When you're not trying to like prove something to somebody and you're solid in your own sense of self, they want to be around you because they want a little of that.
Right.
They're like, wow, she's so confident, or wow, she's not, she's calling the shots.
Right. Not
We're doing,
needy.
not needy.
Yeah. I
Exactly.
always
Because you're
think about
filling
it as
your
like,
own needs.
right, like, what are you bringing to the table? Are you bringing like a big gaping hole of blackness like your ex, or are you
Yes,
going to bring something that's going to enhance someone's life and make them feel good, and they're going to enhance your life instead of drag you down?
exactly. Exactly. We're supposed to be enhancing. That's a great word, making each other
Right.
better,
Right.
instead of feeling like I don't measure up
Hmm.
or whatever. But you have to really embody that energy and be that in order to attract a person who's going to compliment you on that
Right.
journey.
And not easy. And
It's
like
not
you're
easy.
saying, it takes a lot of work.
It
It
takes
takes
a
a
lot
lot
of
of work,
time.
and it
Yes.
takes time, and it takes the right kind of work and the right kind of support. And I know in this community, sometimes people get stuck in these groups where there are people that just keep going on and on about how bad things were. And that's what we talked about earlier, is like, how do you start moving forward out of there? Otherwise,
Yeah,
you're going to
it's like
stay
saying it's
stuck.
finding the right people, getting the right books, right? Gather your resources,
Yeah.
of what feels right for you,
Hmm.
not what somebody is saying. Like tap in. That's why I do energy work too. I help people get in tune and aligned with their true self, because going back to the attraction, like you can't fool the universe, you can't fool energy, manifestation, all that good stuff. It's your life is a direct result of your thinking. Tap in. What feels right for me? Does this feel
Hmm.
right for me? Should I move in this direction? How do I? And things will emerge. The right people will just start to emerge. The right information. It's like magic. It's just gonna like show up. You just gotta pay attention.
I totally am with you. That's like a whole other
Yeah,
conversation. I'm not even going to start it
yeah,
yet.
yeah, yeah.
But so speaking of that, you said how fear is underneath a lot of the things that make us so uncomfortable.
Mhm.
What are some ways that people can identify fear? Like, how do you know if you are afraid? Because we have all these other emotions in the way, anger, sadness.
Mhm.
But and then what are some tools to start working through it? But first, you have to know how to tell what you're fearing.
Yes, yes, 100%. Tap into. So I have, when I work with women in recovery, I suggest they do this. I call it the greater gratitude list. So, and bear with me, I'll get to the question. So,
Mhm.
the first part is gratitude. 5 things you're grateful for. Okay. And then 5 things you like about yourself. So 5 attributes. So you go 5 things I'm grateful for, 5 attributes, 5 things I'm feeling, and 5 things I still do that I don't like that I do, that I'd like to change. And in the feelings part and in the still part really is where you're going to get to the heart of the fear. Why am I doing this? Why, it's just to get it in black and white on paper, like we were talking about, going back to the writing.
Oh my gosh,
Huge.
I love this. I feel like we should have a group to talk about just that itself. That's amazing. Think about all the conversations that could spark.
Yes, yes. So getting very honest with yourself, asking again, whatever you believe in, help me to be as honest and open and humble about who I am and my operating system. What's going on in here, what's going on in here. And just again, it's just paying attention to those little fleeting like senses. Like we almost a feeling comes up, which could be fear. Speaking of fear, don't push it away. Sit in it. Allow yourself to grab it, hold on to it, even if it's for 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Hold on to that and dig deeper, ask more questions. What is that about? What am I feeling? What am I afraid of? What is you? And it will just come. I mean, it's like intuition. It's like downloads that just kind of a knowing comes up if you just get very honest with yourself. Like I had no idea that I feared loss. I also recommend a very good therapist. Use all the stuff and these that or that makes sense. That makes sense to me. And then you're just going to have a better understanding of what that fear really is. Not being good enough. I mean, that's like a huge one, right? And if you can identify that you have low self-worth, then your fear is naturally most likely going to be, I'm not good enough,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think it comes in identifying again how you're feeling, and then just kind of looking underneath that, going just a bit deeper, and say, well, where is that coming from?
It's like looking under a rock and seeing, is there a crayfish?
Exactly, exactly. You're a worm. What's going on under there? Yeah,
Or
open
a
up the hood,
centipede.
shine some light on it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just that's be willing. Willingness is huge too. And to get out of your own way, to kind of empty your brain, empty your heart, and just say, okay, I'm open. What do you have to show me? Higher self, whatever you believe in.
I love this conversation, Amanda. How do
Thank you for
people
having
find
me.
you? Yeah.
So I'm here
So I know someone
on
asked earlier.
Yeah, no, I'm here on Instagram, Amanda McKoy Flanagan. My website also, everything is my name, amandamckoyflanagan.com. You'll read about my grief story. You'll see all my services, the things that I offer. I offer retreats as well. I do workshops. I do events. I kind of do it all, and it works. It's like a lot, but it works for me. It really keeps me in my purpose. So yeah, I would love to hear from any of you listening. That would be awesome. Or just to shoot me an email, just to say hi.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like I'm not. Yes, I'm in business here, but I also really just care about connecting. I'm a Gemini. I'm a natural communicator. I'm a social person. So just reach out to say hi or send me a message on Instagram.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I am very excited to have met you at the event that we did together. And I have a feeling this is not going to be our last. Well, it's definitely not going to be our last conversation.
Yeah, well, you're going to be
I
on
know.
my podcast, right? Yeah, soon. I don't know, maybe next week or the week after we're recording. But anyway,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Lisa. This was
No,
great. And
my
thank you all
pleasure.
for being here and watching.
Yep. Looking forward to talking to you soon.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.